How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head? The room was completely black.
Welcome back to America Tonight. We're hoping you're not going to get kicked in the head, although I just want to make sure you know, for everybody who has no retirement to speak of, and you're throwing the dice at the craps table, Matt Johnson informed me that Powerball is up to $170 million this Wednesday. And if you play and you get the cash option, that'd be $106 million clear. $106 million clear. That's crazy. You could just live off the interest, kind of like Mitt Romney. You know, he says he lives off his investments, which every time he gets pressed about the money, that's what he talks about. He lives off investments. Oh, that is the good life, right? So would you say he's in the 1%? All right, joining us now, always a pleasure to have our financial guru, Saul Albom, on with us from Oslo, Norway. Saul, how are you?
Well, certainly good enough to be in the 1%.
The 1%. Yeah, 99%, 1%. Which are you? I love that. Well, you know, you're starting to get fan mail here, and pretty soon we're starting up a magazine, so you'll be writing for the magazine. So I can only imagine that you'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's exciting stuff.
Well, my wife will say I need to go on a diet, but that'll work just fine. Anything I can do to help out, Kate. We're here, and just so your viewers know, it is about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and I will try to keep all of my fingers so that I can do all the good typing.
I like that, 15 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so let's jump into a couple of things. You sent me some great notes talking about this in this first section about money and current events, which we always do. You and I go back and forth about that. Ben Bernanke talked about saying, well, he kind of hedged. I don't want to talk about being too optimistic, and we're cautious, and we're waiting to see what happens. Basically, you know, giving an update on the Fed. So he's playing it cautious because I think Bernanke gets burned by some of the stuff he says, so he's not going to go out on any kind of a big giant limb, is what I got from that. Yeah,
basically they want to have good transparency. They're all getting together, and there's a famous quote, if I'm paraphrasing a little bit, maybe some of your listeners will remember, where he says, if you understand what I'm saying, then you don't really understand what I'm saying. Because they have to speak so cryptically and speak to the markets and speak transparency. And you ever read the Fed minutes, they're pretty transparent, but it's not really qualitative, meaning that they don't really put numbers on it, and sometimes they do. So they're trying to start out with new transparencies, kind of a little way to do things due to all the pressure the Fed has been getting about all these secret bailouts. So basically, they're printing out kind of the dissenting votes, and they're getting a better description of what the heck is really going on. Because in this ivory tower, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there may think it's the Mordor's Tower of Doom from the Lord of the Rings. We're getting a better idea of what the inside thoughts are. But basically, as far as the updates going, is they talked about exactly what we thought they were, which was more quantitative easing, which is more money printing, financial repression, which was on the notes, which we talked about just a hair, which I wanted to get to, which is effectively turning the banks into utilities to buy the debt, and then GDP targeting, which is a mysterious word, which will take about one sentence to explain to your listeners.
Yeah, so as you said, getting ahead of that, explain that. Go through
Very
that
good.
A little bit for us.
I was hoping you would ask that. Okay, so GDP targeting, which is basically like, okay, I want you to think of your listeners with a bathtub and water in it, okay?
Okay.
They're like, there's a drain coming out, things aren't going good, so we're just going to fill the bathtub until the bathtub is full. Okay, that's GDP targeting. They're going to print enough money as it takes to get the economy rolling. So in the past with QE1 and QE2, they said we're going to print, say, 300, or we're going to have asset purchases, $300 billion, and it may take 3 to 6 months. Okay, and then they had QE3 where they're going to, we're going to make $600 billion worth of purchases, and then they announced a few months ago that it's over. And then they announced Operation Twist, where they're going to go on buy long-term bonds to push mortgage rates down. Okay, and there is a free lunch, and then this will end up being good. So if the economy still keeps going or still is not doing as well as they want, unemployment's not looking good, and the people in power are in danger of getting thrown out, meaning Congress or the people who are running the federal government, what they're going to do is what your listeners are going to start hearing from the news. And now, Kate, we're usually about 4 to 6 months ahead of everybody. So usually this is probably going to happen over the summer. Okay, so things are looking bad for the reelection of Obama, so we're going to print enough money just to keep things going. And we're not going to say it's going to be $600 billion. Maybe it's 300. Maybe it's another trillion. Maybe it's 2 trillion. We'll keep printing, but that way you can keep printing money. That's the policy to target the gross to target the GDP. Did I explain that reasonably enough?
Totally. No, excellent. Your explanation was great. I think everybody could understand that for sure. Moving from that, because that's important, we talk about quantitative easing and what's going on and why things are targeted certain ways. Something that I'm been paying attention to, of course, is what's going on with the stock market. And I think I'm sort of overwhelmed with all the information I get sometimes, as are other people out there. But one thing that we notice is some big earnings this week is coming up. This week was huge. What's going to happen now, like Amazon, everybody keeps talking about Jeff Bezos and how great he is and how Amazon is just doing amazing things, taking over the world. And we've seen that. And Amazon is a great stock, isn't it?
Yeah, first, that if you want to be into individual stocks, you really got to know an industry. So if your listeners out there are listening, and I don't know, let's say they work on a railroad, or let's say they work in computers, then I would say then maybe you got a good shot of doing stocks. So first is you got to know the industry very well. The second is, the most important thing of all is, of course, have a company that makes money, right? So you got to pay attention to the earnings. And Apple just had blowout earnings. What I like about Amazon, where I see this going, is that they're going to be competing with Apple. So Apple, it was a hardware manufacturer that started selling content like software. They became the number one selling music store in the world in a matter of like 3 years due to iTunes. Okay, now. Amazon is the opposite. They're moving from pure content, where they had books and consumption, and now they're moving into devices with the Kindle Fire and the Kindles alike. So we know it may be the future where, are you a Kindle instead of a PC or a Mac? It may be, are you a Kindle person, or maybe are you an iPad person? And so I really like the direction. So you definitely would check out and continue to take a look at Amazon. So basically, as far as full markets going, for the rest of the year, and for at least from the short run, which is due to a lot of the money printing, that companies are still showing really high profits. And we've been talking about this for the last 2 or 3 months, which is big companies are going to do well with money printing, and of course, so everyone's having record earnings. So right now, we've had 50% of the equity cap, meaning that 50% of the value of the S&P has reported. Earnings are up 11%. Revenues are up 10%. And that's what I was trying to get at the last couple episodes, Kate, which is if things are so bad, why are revenues and profits up?
So high, yeah.
Right. I mean, if we're going to believe the line that, corporations are evil and have all the money on the balance sheet and they're not hiring, that's fine. Okay. But that would mean the revenues are down, but both are up. Okay. So anyway, so this is a good week to pay attention. Coming up, we got Exxon, Northrop Grumman, Allstate, Mattel, Pfizer, Merck, Qualcomm, UPS, Amazon reporting. U.S. Steel is reporting, McGraw-Hill, Chipotle, for all you burrito lovers out there. So we'll get a better idea of what's going on. But basically, it's just kind of Goldilocks. It's not so great, not so good, and the money printing is keeping everyone afloat. And in my opinion, will keep, prices will go up, prices will go down, but not anything too catastrophic up and not anything too catastrophic down on the downside.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about a couple of things. Like you and I have been talking about Japan for a long time, so we'll jump back into Japan. And also personal finance. Saul wants to get into that, so pay attention. We've really been emphasizing this overall this year so far on America Tonight when we talk about what you're doing, and if there's a way that we can shed some light on some of the things you could be doing that might help you perhaps. Stay with us.